I know the college football season has just started. There's still a lot of football to be played. But based on what we've seen thus far, let's go ahead and project guys who may return for the 2024 class. We're going to go over 10 guys who, at this current point, probably should go back to school instead of foregoing their senior year or their following year of eligibility. It's all messed up because of the Rona. But what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know so, go ahead, become bro, and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up. Enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love having that nice, beautiful football discourse. And with the first one, I want to go over an obvious one, being Brett Johnson out of Cal, and he was in the top 50 of Todd McShay's big board, and he's just kind of had an unfortunate sequence of events the past couple of years. Now with Johnson, he was a 3-star recruit from the 2019 class, and as a freshman, he was a starter early for the Golden Bears, where he started in 9 games out of the 13 he played, but then he only played 4 games in the shortened Pac-12 season, and to be fair, that was all the games the Bears had played. And then he unfortunately had to miss his whole junior season because of an automobile accident that involved a broken hip. And then he returned to spring practice. Looked like he was going to be good and ready to go for the 2022 season. What we saw, thus far, was pretty impressive. And then a lower body injury happened the days before opening week, and he's out for the season. So this is a guy that probably needs to go back because, well, we haven't seen him play in the last 2 years, and then the last time we saw him was in 2020, where he only played 4 games, and that's going to be a rough sell for teams. It's like we haven't seen you play in so long. You have to return. I was looking up his eligibility, and he should have another year because he technically would have been a senior this year, but with the Rona, it's like you had that the exemption year in 2020. So he was like a 4th-year junior, so he would be a 5th-year senior if he decided to stay 1 more year. And I think that'd be fine because, I think this guy has the makings of a day 2 prospect. He's got good quicks, and he uses his hands exceptionally well. He combines very good hand usage and active hands with good leverage and pad level, and that's saying that for a guy that's 6'5". It's hard to maintain that leverage, and that's probably a knock on him. It's like it's going to be a bit more difficult at the next level, but he's been doing it, or at least he's done it consistently going back to the 2019 and 2020 season. And this dude, he's got a solid anchor. He can hold up double teams. By no means is he like a space eater. I think Todd McShay even said that. But he doesn't stay engaged in blocks for very long. He's able to shed even double teams, and he's just a good player, good 3-down player, and that's kind of what you want. And yeah, I can't foresee him coming out, but I wanted to mention him because I specifically hadn't mentioned him thus far, and I probably won't because I assume he's going to be a 2024 prospect. So I just wanted to throw his name out here. Now let's talk about some of the guys we've actually seen, starting with Anthony Richardson. Oh boy, Surrey, Anthony Richardson. Dude's formerly a 5-star recruit from the 2020 class, and he wanted to stay home because he's actually native there at Gainesville. And Gainesville, just getting them gains, those sick gains. Stupid joke. But sick shirt, though. Bro Science. He has all these cool college football design shirts, like bro tanks. And it's like he's got Gainesville, and he's got the Gator actually like curling. He's got chest point instead of West Point. And it's the night, just benching, I think. I don't know. He's got a ton of good ones. It's really, really sick. Check those out. Who are we talking about? Anthony Richardson. So, again, this is his first year as a starter. And after that Utah game where we got to see what he can do with his legs, oh, wow, man, what a playmaker. We already knew that about him. The last 2 haven't been that good. Kentucky, mistake prone. Against South Florida, mistake prone. A guy that just can't operate inside of structure. And he's yet to throw a TD this season. His only touchdowns have come on the ground. He's thrown 4 picks. And in this last game, like I mentioned this in my stock up, stock down, I think, I'm pretty sure I talked about, if not, I'm going to talk about it here, that this is the first time where I was like, he looks inaccurate. And I know people be like, well, he's always had accuracy problems. I was like, for me, it was a lot of just staying on his reads for too long and being late with his anticipation and just throwing off the mark. But like this game against South Florida, I was like, oh my goodness, my boy, what you doing? What you doing? So it's like, man, he really needs to show improvements in that accuracy, working inside a structure. And it's great to have those legs, but if you can't do it from a clean pocket, then it's like, what's the use, man? You're just a running back at that point. But like we know the tools. They're immense. Maybe he just needs another year of polish. We'll see. Early season, but as of right now, like for me, Anthony Richardson, you're just betting on his tools, and for me, that's just not enough. Good water. All right, who's next on the list? Oh no, it's my boy Tyler Van Dyke, who had a very rough outing there against Texas A&M. And to be fair, he's being let down by the lack of receiving help there at Miami, and I don't anticipate that to get better. He has suffered from so many dropped passes; it's just ridiculous. But also with Tyler Van Dyke, he has been a bit late on reads. Like there are instances where you could tell this is his first time really going through true progressions, going through his reads, and he's been late on a couple of reads. He needs to throw with better touch down the field, as there are times where it's like, oh man, that could have been a big gain if you just put a little bit more under the football, or maybe you just led your receiver a bit too much. That happened in the Aggies game. So it's like a lot of these things where he needs a like fine tool, but like for all intents and purposes, like yeah, for me, I see the first round potential in Van Dyke. It's just right now, it's like it's just not there. It's not there right now. Again, a lot of season left to be played. Maybe this will change. Hopefully it will, but Van Dyke, as of right now, I could definitely see him returning for one more season. And then I gotta talk about my boy Keyshawn Abute, because y'all know I'm a Abute person. He was my top receiver going into this year. Initially, my biggest concern going into this season was he was gonna lack that explosiveness as a playmaker coming off of the ankle injury that required multiple ankle surgeries. Didn't seem to be the case. However, more in that Florida State game, things went up the creek real quick, as like he just wasn't a focal point of the offense. And when he was throwing the football, he had a couple of bad drops. Like this one though wasn't a bad drop. It was a tough catch. He had it, couldn't secure it once he made contact with the ground. That's tough. The other one, just on a quick slant, wasn't even looking up, right for the football. Hit him in the hand, didn't even know it was coming. Like that was bad. And then after the game, it seemed like he was no longer going to be an LSU Tiger. He scrubbed his whole social media of anything LSU related, and it seemed like he might have been maybe either opting out of the rest of the season and just going to the draft, which I think would have been an abysmal decision, or he would have been a transfer. And then apparently they worked things out. He played the next game against Southern, and they've played 3 games thus far, and he hasn't really been the main focal point of the offense. And I think that's a bit of a problem. As you can see, only 10 receptions for 93 yards. If you're going to be considered a top receiver in this class, you got to show more production. You just got to. And we know he's capable of so much more. So returning definitely might be in the books for him, because we know the playmakers he can be. We saw his freshman and his sophomore season. So he's just been a bit underwhelming, and I expect him to get better. Even if it's not this year, maybe next. And then Eric Gilbert. This was my tight end win. I'm going to hold the L for this. I knew that he was going to be stuck. If he was going to play tight end, he was going to be stuck behind the depth that is Brock Bowers, who is going to be a top top prospect in 2024, and Darnell Marshall, who is like, yo, hey, straight up, fun fact, yeah, I'm kind of a day 2 guy. I thought he was going to end up playing receiver. They played him there in the spring practices, but it just hasn't come to fruition. He's just been playing as a backup tight end. Not even the tight end 2, tight end 3. He's only seen 23 offensive snaps this season, and he was actually held out of the last game. So, yeah, you might have all the freaking tools and athleticism in the world for the position, but if you're not playing and you're not being able to show you can be productive, you're not going to get drafted. Like, that's just the case. So, like, for me, his move to Florida, or his move to Georgia, it had to be, hey, I'm not coming out in the 2023 draft. That's just not in the cards for me. We're gonna work longer on this to 2024 because we know what he's capable of. We saw him freshman year when he was at LSU because he is a transfer. So, like, we know what he's capable of. We just need to see it. And yeah, hopefully we can. I just doubt we'll see it this year as he's stuck behind so much freaking depth. So much. It's a ton. Did I tell you it's a lot? Because it's a lot. All right, next on the list, I got Robert Scott out of Florida State. A guy, I believe he's a redshirt sophomore. Let me go confirm. But guy with a lot of upside. He actually moves quite well for a 6'5", 334-pounder. I think I got him right here. Here we go. Yeah, he was out of the 2020 class. There we go. Redshirt sophomore. Redshirt his freshman season. No. He's true junior. Should be a true junior. Or considering how they classify 2020, he's probably a third-year sophomore. Regardless, guy that can come back, probably should. A lot of potential. This season, thus far, he's allowed 7 pressures on 75 pass rushing snaps. Not great. But when you consider the competition, it's not terrible. But it's not like some people were pinning this guy as a first-round sleeper. And I don't think that's really the case. Here, I want to get an injury update because he was banged up in the Louisville game. And we haven't got a specific injury report from Mike Norvell. He's been very like, oh yeah, no, the situation's day to day. He's been very optimistic that these guys will return, but I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna be out a few games or not. But dude with a lot of potential. You love the look. You love the goggles. If you don't, then you must hate fun. And I'm sorry, your life probably sucks. But a guy with a ton of potential that just really lacks consistency. Like, we saw bits and pieces last season where it was like, wow, this guy can be really good. There's a lot going for him. But he just didn't do it on a consistent enough basis. So a lot of people were like, okay, he's trending upwards in terms of his projection, though, that this year maybe he puts it all together, and that, or at least early on, it just doesn't seem to be the case. Now, I want to stay with Florida State because I want to talk about Jared Verse. And first things first, with his injury update, it sounds like he might be out a week or two. That's what it sounds like. He's been light practicing. That's what I heard from some of the things people have told me. Not that I have an insider. I just probably had somebody that followed Florida State practices. But even if he does return, if he doesn't return to that same level of dominance as he had in the first 2.5 games, then I don't know if you want to really declare when you have this legit, he has first round upside. I'm saying it right now. This guy is such an athlete, so quick off the ball. It doesn't matter if he's in a 3-point stance or standing up. He's coming at you with a lot of speed, a lot of power. And this guy's a former Albany transfer, so nobody was expecting him to come out and look like freaking Jermaine Johnson, because Jermaine Johnson had the pedigree, not Jared Verse. So again, there's a lot in the air of, okay, will he return to that same level as we saw earlier in the LSU game? how long will he be out? Is it 2 weeks? Will he only be out 2 weeks? Could it be longer? Because honestly, the injury looked pretty bad. Like, the injury itself looked bad. I think he was on a brace on the sidelines after halftime in that Louisville game. But this dude has so much like upside that I think there's a chance that he comes back if he comes back and he's not nearly as healthy and doesn't have the same output. Because I really think you shoot for that first round, my friend. Or does the injury take longer than expected? Because again, just a lot of questions. So a guy I want to bring up, I love Jared Verse. I can bring him up in every video because he's like one of my favorite prospects thus far to start the season. The guy that I had my eye on was like, hey, watch out. He kind of showed out during the spring practice at Florida State. I had enough confidence to throw him in my top 50, and it was paying off. And then Eli Ricks. Eli Ricks, my friend. He has played a hot 61 snaps. If you didn't know, that ain't a lot. I bet you he wasn't expecting that when he transferred to Alabama. For a lot of people, he was like a potential cornerback one, or maybe like at least among the top like 3 corners. In this class, I think he was my corner 3. But yeah, like he sat on the sideline that whole Texas game. People were like, why aren't they putting him in? The defense is struggling. Why isn't he playing? And then wasn't even the starter against Louisiana Monroe. Only saw 23 snaps in that game. Granted, it was a blowout. We've only seen him for 61 snaps altogether. He does have a pass breakup. Like, he's only allowed a reception for 10 yards. Like, I don't get it. Like, you can't come out if you're not like the starter. It's not making sense. Like, you can't come out expect to be a first rounder if you're not getting that type of play. If you're not being allowed the production what people think you are capable of. I think he's a good fit in Alabama. I don't know why he's not starting. I really think he should, especially with all the struggles that secondary has had thus far this season. So Eli Ricks, kind of a question mark at this point, but a guy that does have the eligibility. He's only a junior. All right, let's keep moving and talk about Justin Flo, the linebacker out of Oregon. Did play this week against BYU because of a minor injury. They expect him to be back for Washington State this week, but just hasn't been that impressive this season thus far. A guy that is an uber athlete, but has been plagued by the injury bug. Coming into this season, he only played 1 full game, and it was against Fresno State. And he's had back-to-back like season-ending injuries. Like, one I think was like right before I believe it was right before the 2020 season. Let me bring it up real quick for me. All right. So yeah, he had a meniscus tear in the 2020 season, and then he sustained a foot injury. And he's played a whopping 65 snaps, or a whopping, it was like 80 some snaps, but 65 to compile his whole career. Actually, no, it was like 68, my bad. 68 his whole career. A guy that just hasn't played a ton. He didn't look entirely that impressive thus far this year. 9 tackles and a pressure. He's allowed 5 receptions and 40 yards for a TD. Again, didn't play the BYU game. Just you need when you're coming, like when you don't have the sample size, they're not going to bet on you for a so-so season. So a guy that has the eligibility could end up returning, prove, hey, I can stay healthy. Keep in mind, he was held out. Granted, it was a minor injury. He was held out of this BYU game. He's been hurt every year. That's going to be a concern for some NFL teams. So Justin Flo, a name to consider, might return. And then I want to end on this list with a guy with first round upside, Rakim Jared, out of Maryland. You'd be like, what? He's been good this year. He has 11 receptions, almost 200 yards, a TD. He had the long TD, I think, in this past game. But 3 drops. This guy's a drop ball machine. needs to work on that drop rate, my friend. Show better hands, because this guy's a wonderful athlete with easy first round potential. Really does. What he can do to stretch the field or even just after the catch is amazing. Just need to see the consistency as when it comes to the ball skills, because drops were an issue throughout his career dating back to last year. We go take a look at it real quick, where last season he had an 8.8 drop rate. That's scary, because anywhere close to 10%, the red flags are up. They're waving, and this guy was throwing a large amount of screens in 2021. Now this year, it seems like the ball skills are about the same, which that's scary. I don't want to have it MVS, even though obviously MVS is a bit bigger, but still, like Rakim Jared, a guy with first round upside, depending on, I think, how his ball skills go the rest of the season, might be a guy that could return just because of the potential. But let me know some guys who you think may return just based on the early results we have right now. Remember, there's a lot of football to be played. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.